Good to go, Jen? All right. Testing. Good. Abby, you hear us?
Good morning, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'll call today's meeting to order. Jen, will you do a roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Tucci,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Let's see, Bing, can I ask you to start us out in prayer this morning?
My name is Cullen Sutton. We thank you, Creator, for all your blessings that you've given us. We thank you for watching over everybody that's lost loved ones, Father, in this past few weeks here. And we ask that you bless them and give them the strength to deal with their losses, Father. We ask you that you watch over our children, our grandchildren, especially our elders. We thank you, Father, for just blessing us with everything that that we're going on here, blessing us with things that we have that we need to watch over and deal with. I just thank you, Father, for everything you've done. Watch over our men and women in the armed services and protect them, Father. And along with our veterans, we ask you that you watch over them. We ask this in your name, Father. Amen.
Thank you, Bing. Okay, everybody had a good weekend. My team got beat yesterday. Okay, so you have your minutes from January 12th for you.
Mr. Chairman, on the first paragraph, where we're talking about the COVID leave, I would like the sentence stricken from there that acknowledges the outbreak. Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
on that page 1, I just wanted to emphasize that where Renee said that she first brought the policy in, it was December 29th.
So it was like 2 days before the policy expired. And then also in there, I would like to include one of my statements about departments taking responsibility for what they did and didn't do and have some accountability in that. That was one of the main focuses I had that day, was that, basically it's been thrown back on council that that's why this policy expired. And if due diligence would have been done and they would have come early and not 2 days before the policy actually expired, we wouldn't be in the situation having a backdate and not follow our own policies. So I really want to emphasize that accountability is really important. And then we get into the other things that come with accountability, because department heads have a big job, but they also should be the example they strive to set for their employees. Thank you.
Go ahead, Big.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 3, my statement about the issue with the Powell grounds up there, can we take out brother and put in Powell committee?
Thanks, Big.
Page 3.
Motion to approve the January 12th minutes with corrections.
Motion by Len to approve the January 12th council minutes with corrections. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Nine, 4, 1 abstaining, Mike. Okay, we have our agenda. I have a few updates I want to cover with you, but is there any other changes to the agenda?
Yeah, I have one issue.
Okay.
Executive.
One walk-in? Okay.
I'll have to escape at 10 for a Progress Act meeting,
Okay, thanks, Mike.
and it's a long one today.
Any other additions to the agenda? Motion by Ellie to approve today's agenda with modifications. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous? Okay. Let's do our first walk-in. Donna. Happy New Year, Donna.
Okay, so I actually was here for 2 different things. So I'll talk to you. Is it on? Yeah. About the first thing. Okay, so one of the reasons I'm here today is to discuss children and youth on the Flathead Reservation. You may know that I've been a student of social work and chemical dependency counseling at SKC. In June 22, I graduated with my AA in chemical dependency counseling and will graduate with my bachelor's in social work this June. I've been working in a private counseling practice owned by a woman and CSKT tribal member. And I'm now applying at colleges and universities to obtain my Master of Social Work with plans to start September 2023. I've been working as an ACLC, that's a provisionally licensed chemical dependency counselor, to treat and counsel addicts and alcoholics throughout my education at SKC. and my work is now supervised by an LCSW and MAC, Masters in Addiction Counseling. I want to tell you about what I hear and see from our people who come in for treatment and what I've learned about addiction. First, when I do a chemical dependency evaluation, I meet with the client and conduct a detailed interview that takes from 90 minutes to 2 hours. I obtain information about the presenting problem. That is why they are seeking treatment, whether it's voluntary or court-ordered, name of their PO or defender, and specifics on what happened to cause them to seek help. Then we go into their family history, emotional, psychological, education, legal history, work history, medical history, religious, spiritual, cultural history, and at the end, we get their lifetime substance use history. Along with that, we use screening tools typically used in CD practice to quantify the severity and help us make decisions on the level of care we recommend. This is the piece of the work that we do that helps us understand the evolution of a client's substance use history, frequency and quantity, method of use, like smoking or injecting, and we do this in chronological order. What emerges is a detailed window into this person's life and what happened along the way as people develop alcoholism or drug addiction, leading to criminal behavior. First, we see clients who typically begin using substances at a very early age. Many start experimenting at age 6 or 7. I see this almost with every case that I work with. And you probably know some of this stuff, but it's either alcohol or tobacco that comes first. Typically by age 10 or 12, the individual has begun escalating use into other substances, especially marijuana. By age 13 or 14, the client has already been in trouble with the law, has become truant from school, and drops out by the 8th or 9th grade. By age 15 or so, they'll likely begin using meth, heroin, opioid prescription medications, cocaine, and slip into a pattern of lifetime addiction and criminal behavior. Circling back to the age of first use and onset of addiction, this is a pattern that is pretty typical of our clientele with substance use issues that cascade into legal problems, beginning as a minor that continues throughout adulthood. The earlier the age of onset, the higher the risk for addiction, and the typical addict will have significantly impacted their ability to function in society in productive, not destructive ways. The point of all this is to begin brainstorming what we can do to help our Native children before the cycle repeats. There is more we can and must do. Right now, drug use and addiction is a crisis on the reservation, and obviously it worsened due to the pandemic. We're losing people to fatal overdoses. Families are being torn apart. Grandparents raising grandchildren because mom and dad are addicts and CPS removes the children. Jails are packed to overflowing, and there seems no way to get a handle on the crisis. We've learned from local law enforcement that there is a high likelihood that all illicit drugs, including marijuana, bought off the streets is laced with fentanyl. For me, the most obvious way to help our people is to begin with our children before the problems start. I'm talking preschool Head Start, and I'm specifically looking at developing a prevention program that begins in the preschool years and spans throughout a child's school years through high school graduation. I'm talking about a program that continuously follows and supports children throughout various developmental milestones and incentivizes and rewards them to live substance-free lives, that teaches them evidence-based coping skills using various treatment modalities. By the time adult addicts come to me or any of us who do addiction treatment, the pattern becomes significantly more difficult to treat, and many do not achieve remission and long-term recovery. The few that do, I call walking miracles. We do not give up on our adult addicts and alcoholics. We are there no matter what to help them heal, and we hope and pray that they can work to overcome substance dependence and criminal behavior. But we have to be there for our children before they get to this point. I just cannot overemphasize how much we see this pattern starting very early in childhood. Another idea I have is to grow our children into lifetime success and reward and incentivize children early and often who stay substance-free and develop into successful students. Many times their families may be unable to provide consistent praise, tutoring, and feedback. But we have ways to identify those children who are at risk, yet are still reachable. And once we begin knowing them, we can enhance their learning capacity by providing mentorship and specialized attention to foster high achievement that's going to reap benefits for our tribes in the future. Think of this idea as planting a seed in a garden. You use good soil, water it, and control pests, fertilize, and then you have grown a beautiful plant that is ready to start producing quality fruit. This is relatable to helping our children grow up with solid support in school. Those that develop leadership skills that inspire other children to want to do the same. Positive peer pressure and role modeling. We grow our leaders beginning from childhood and give each the opportunities and supportive services to ensure success. Then guess what? We have taken this generation of children and given them a much better path to support themselves in the future and make their dreams come true. And when we ensure our children graduate from high school, along the way, we're asking them what they want to do with their lives and how we can enrich their learning by providing a program that helps them understand there is a bright future for them. When we get involved at this level, we create our future workforce. We can identify those children who can go to college, get their degrees, and come back to work for the tribes. This is doable. So one of the things that I wanted to stress about these thoughts is that currently there is no such program available, but I've done research on programs that go along these lines. And then you may know about some statistics, but teenagers in Montana are 39.58% more likely to have used drugs in the last month than the average American teen. And this is through the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics that I got these statistics. Beginning with the age range from 12 to 17 years old, the following list provides detail on polysubstance use in 2021 throughout Montana. 9,000 or 11.63% of 12 to 17-year-olds report using drugs in the last month. Among them, 77.78% report using marijuana in the last month. So I'm going to provide you this paper that I wrote. It's a research paper. It's targeted to developing a program for childhood prevention. I do not think that we can do this alone. This paper is very much involves the entire community. I've conducted interviews with principals in law enforcement, Jeannie Christopher here, and a student, a high achieving student that was actually in a class with me. She was at Ronan High School. And she graduated and went to Dartmouth this fall. So the second piece of why I'm here today then is to carry on with the idea of what are we doing right now to incentivize and honor all of our students that are achieving 4.0 GPAs, who are doing well. And I'm talking about our tribal children. We have some. So what do we do to help them? How do we honor them? And then at the college level, we have many tribal students, such as myself, that are, doing extremely well. We have plans. We want to work for the tribes at some point. And part of the whole idea of beginning with these young kids is that there's going to be, a lot of vacancies. We have an older workforce, as we all know. So how can we nurture our kids that have the capacity to go as far as they want to go and help them get into higher education and start working once we retire, right? So one of my ideas about higher education and funding and so on is that I know that I will struggle to get that money together for my master program, for example. And I do believe that there are ways to keep us going. We're adults, it's true, but guess what? I don't have anybody telling me, good job, Donna, or, there's so many of my cohort and other students that I know that have come from extremely troubled backgrounds and histories and could use that, because especially with our children that have been impacted by socioeconomic stuff, foster care, being raised by grandparents. The grandparents, think about it. When you're older, you've already been there, done that with kids. You may not have the resources to work with the children, to tutor them. I have heard so many people say, I can't help my child because I don't remember that stuff, or I never got taught that stuff. So there's a compelling reason to consider what we can do to help the children and high achieving students to make sure that they know that their tribe is behind them. Moreover, when you know that you have a tribal student that's, getting great grades, doing well, and maybe they're great in math, or they're great in science, or they're great in writing, or whatever, helping them with, developing that career mindset of having hope. So many of the children and so many of my clients can't even articulate what is possible. They have no hope. They don't see that there's a way out, even if they recover and get into long-term, remission. They don't even, I ask them, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. And it's the same for the kids. That is beyond sad. So that is the reason why I came today. I believe that there is a path to helping our people. And I know that it has to start with the kids, and it has to start early. And there is no alternative, because right now, I can't tell you how overworked we are in our little practice. I can't imagine what our tribal addiction services and programs are going through. And as we all know, it's not just an individual group problem. This problem impacts our entire community in so many devastating ways. And sadly, it fosters the feeling and the belief in what many people say about us as people, that it does not reflect well on us. So what are we going to do about it? And that's where I'll end. Thank you so much for having me. I have this report that I did, that if you would like to read it, Abby said she'd scan it for you. It's a research paper that I did, chock-a-block full of statistics specific to the Flathead Reservation, and the beginnings of an approach to developing a program such as I described, and that I think we need. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Donnie. Yeah, please give it to Jennifer. I definitely want to read it.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, go ahead, Terry.
thank you, Donna. Donna?
Yeah.
Right here. Appreciate your passion and your work. I'm just wondering if you have listed some solutions, like for tracking, funding. Every community has a need, and we can't clone you to every community, but I would be nice to have some solutions. Have you, we had Head Start in here, and some of the stuff you're talking about, Head Start's trying to implement that into their program, and getting to the parents. But I commend you and encourage you to continue on. But it'd be nice to have your thoughts on some solutions. How do we, the fundings, and how do we track these kids? Because once you make that commitment, you've got to have people that can track them through
Yeah.
all the years of school.
Right. So, in this report, I state, no program can be developed without funding, plans for funding. So the IHS and SAMHSA and other, funding sources for grants are available. In, I think it was last year or the year before, the IHS approved 108 programs, tribal programs, of course. So the money's out there, and what we have to do, in my opinion, is we have to make this a program for all children and get all the communities support. We could do this by developing surveys, and by outreach, and of course, the funding thing would be done by grants. We could do, donations, stuff like that. There's plenty of money for us at the grant level. This I know. So if we can write a compelling grant, and in this research that I did, yes, I do outline a program. It's pretty specific. However, I am one person with an idea. And like Margaret Mead said, the only way change can happen is when a group of like-minded people get together. It's the only thing that can affect change. I didn't quote that exactly, but it's one of my favorite quotes, is that once you start getting people involved and you get that support, I have preliminary information that I've gathered through interviews with key people that are not tribal, that say, yes, we would be interested in a program like this. There's also a component that I didn't even touch on, which makes me really sad, is that our jails are so old and so small and jammed to capacity that when I go in and do intakes and the biopsychosocials with the inmates, I'm sitting in a chair that's metal. It's like this big, behind a screen, and I have to write, and my meetings take up to 2 hours to do these things. And so what I think that we're missing out on, it's such an opportunity, is getting people going in treatment while they're in jail. Why? Because they're sober, because they're in jail, because they're feeling bad. It is the sweet spot that we are missing because we don't have the room to do it. So that there's just a number of different things that we can do, but I assure you in the report that there's a good chunk of it devoted to how we can get funding for such a program. And that, yes, it's going to take the entire village, tribal, non-tribal, coming together and saying, we need to help our kids. If we help our kids, maybe we're going to start changing this toxic cycle. And that's kind of where I am with it. So I could never do this alone, but I can plant a seed, hopefully. And then the principals can start as a jumping off platform. But the statistics are real. The problem is real. I see it every day. And my concern is, 6-year-old kids starting substance use, and it's still going on. And of course, the pandemic made it worse. So that's all in there. So I hope that you'll read it and maybe get some good information. And I even cited the tribe's community health report along with Lake County's. So there is like-mindedness going on here with this specific problem. And
Well, Donna, thank you. And I look forward to your report and getting that information. And thank you for going into this profession.
thank you.
I really, really want to thank you for that because we need people like you in this profession and you're demonstrative of the need and you've identified so many part of the problems and you're identifying solutions. So thank you for thinking outside the box or just getting into it. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you listening.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
Go ahead, Jennifer, and then Carol.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Donna, thank you for coming in. You know, your thoughtfulness and your passion for this community show through in everything that you do. And I know you really care about making things better in every way that you can. And I really like your idea. You have so many good ideas. I really like your idea of starting treatment for people while they're in jail. But a lot of these things would take a better facility than we currently have. And we went on a tour of this jail and Lake County Jail. Have you been to Lake County Jail?
Of course, I go there a lot.
Oh, it's worse than the tribal jail.
Yeah, it is.
It's worse.
It's a nightmare going in there
Yeah.
trying to do this. And it does break my heart that I cannot do anything except the CD evaluation.
Yeah.
After that, I never see those people again. I don't know what happens to them. I don't know if they get sent off to treatment.
Yeah, and I agree with your idea too about, you know, saving children because they're the most malleable. They're the most influenceable. And when you can reach a child, it has a ripple effect, a positive ripple effect into their adulthood, that things can be different. And, you know, I know that some months ago, and I'll follow up on it, I asked Tribal Health when they were in here about whether or not they've collaborated with DHRD about therapeutic homes for children. And so there's already models out there, and there's therapeutic homes in Missoula that are alternatives to foster care, where children live in a home with trained therapists, and they're small homes, they're not institutions, and how we could rethink how we help children. Because when we did the budget, Ruth said, I mean, the budget for DHRD increased exponentially, and that was because so many people are getting into fentanyl and these other drugs, and then they're creating like these mass amounts of children who they need a lot of help.
Yeah.
And then the resources get spread fewer and fewer. And so I really look forward to reading your report. Thank you.
Thank you. I got a great grade on it. So,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
did you have a question, Carol?
no, not a question. I wanted to make a comment. Donna, you're a bright light. And I want to thank you for being that individual. You know, a lot of these things that we're going through is caused by childhood trauma. Heard that many, many times, but I was watching NBC News, and there's a guy in Shelton, Washington, who has formulated a program he was imprisoned for, I don't know how long, but anyway, when he got out, he wanted to do something. He didn't want to leave all those people behind. He wanted to try to help. So he's formed this program, and what he modeled it after is Norway, what they're doing in Norway for their people that are in prison, drug issues and all of that. And so I was going to try to get more information. I didn't even get the guy's name, but I felt bad, but at least I wrote that much down. So I thought, you know, I could research it, but absolutely. Now that we're going through the 280 issue, I really think it's time as an organization, and the resolution I'm sure already exists, that we sit down, bring all the parties together, figure out doing a model that is different from what everybody else is doing, because it's not working. So let's form our own model and do a pilot project that will help people that are incarcerated, not only in Lake County, but tribal jail. And the drug court's a first good step, but that's not the only step there is. Some people just need more. we all know mental health counseling, more intense, things like that. So I just think we need to have a sit down to start formulating, because until we do that, we're hit and miss. We're, like Rick say, we're siloed and we're all over the place.
Yeah.
And so until we can do that, I don't know, you know, where we're gonna go with it. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Donna, thank you too. I also agree with everybody else who has spoken. I love the ideas that you have. Very excited to read your report. And I think, you know, incentivizing those who are doing well and pushing through all of these things that our kids are dealing with, and college kids even, and we do need to start incentivizing them. And I know they used to do something in the high schools, I thought, with incentives, but I'd love to revisit that program. Even if we were doing something at our quarterly meetings or acknowledging them somehow publicly for those students who have been successful. And so love that idea as well. I wanted to throw that, but thank you so much for coming in. Love your ideas. And really thankful for all that you do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, Donna, thank you. There's some great thoughts. I mean, where you want to begin is where it needs to happen. I got some, we kind of talking some things out here at the council, but do you have a contact number on that paper?
Yeah, I can give you a business card.
Okay, I'd like to talk to you about something, you know,
Sure.
before.
Sure.
So if I can get a hold of you, I have some ideas on some things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I forgot to tell you, I just got certified as an MCT therapist. MCT is moral reconnant therapy, and it is specifically designed to help addicts. And well, it was designed for use in the prison environment. So you go in there and you have a group of inmates, and what it does is it's a CBT modality of treatment, and it teaches them morals because they don't have them. They don't understand how to act in society. It's a 12-step program, but it's not like any other 12-step program. The reason why I became an instructor in it is because it has a 33% success rate, which hardly any other program can boast. And so with the idea in mind that one day I'll be able to get into those jails and help people in there, I took this class. Plus I'm a DUI instructor and soon to be certified as a domestic violence specialist. So I keep pushing and pushing because we have so many needs, and I want to be multifaceted to be able to work with these people that have they have all of that and more, you know. So that is what I'm doing, and thank you so much for having me here. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
Donna. Thank you. We will go ahead and stay on schedule, and then Len and I will go after our next presentation for the Montana Gathering of Friends. So Robin, please come on up. You can, as long as you use the microphone.
So anyway, I'm Robin Wyatt, and I'm here to get your advice and your recommendations on this minute. But I thought I'd start just going to a little bit about the minute itself and how it got put together. Talk a little bit about myself, and then I'll read the one part of this that we really need recommendations from you. So this was passed by the North Pacific Yearly Meeting this summer, and North Pacific, that's Quakers, I'm a Quaker. The North Pacific Yearly Meeting involves Quakers from Montana, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. So it was passed, and then I was asked by Montana Gathering of Friends to work with them on how it should be implemented in Montana. And just to tell you a little tiny bit about myself, I'm local. I live in Charlotte. I'm on the Missing and Murdered Indigenous work group with Ellie for the tribe. And I'm also a board member of the Flathead Reservation Human Rights Coalition. So I've been working on some tribal issues and I'm very interested. And also a year ago, you guys reviewed a paper I had written. I had been working with Ellie in that, in doing that paper, and I'm very pleased to say it's going to be published this in February. So, and anyway, and that's on violence against Native American women, and it also it's on violence against Native American women, but it has a lot of section in it that I think is probably most important. Is on the lack of violence prior to colonization against women, and really shows how the violence that we are experiencing today is really part of colonization and has to be looked at it that way. It's written for not a Native audience. It's really written to try to get non-Native people to look at the brutality of colonization. That was the purpose of it. Anyway, let me just tell you about this a minute. So, so the first part of this minute, I'm not going to go through, really focuses on Quakers to make sure that they learn about the brutality that Native American people have experienced since beginning with colonization and throughout colonization and to today, and learn a lot about the tribes, various tribes pre-colonization as well, so that they have that whole history, and that the Quakers really understand it, take in what happened, and really lament about it. So that's sort of the first part. What I want your recommendation on, so I'm going to read it, it's the second to last bullet point, and I think I put it in when I requested to come here, I think I put it in there, so you may have seen it. And I have copies of this whole minute. I don't know whether everybody, but I'm happy to leave them if people would like to see it. But anyway, this is the paragraph I really want help with. To explore the sources of our property and wealth, meaning us Quakers, and invest in Native nations or Native-led projects that support Indigenous rights, health, or autonomy. The investments could include sharing property, paying rent as suggested by tribes, or returning the land. Example projects include efforts to protect missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, federal recognition of tribes, supporting tribal rights, legislative repudiating the doctrine of discovery, ecological protection movements like Standing Rock or coal train opposition. So that's pretty broad, right? So we haven't gotten to this part in the Montana Gathering of Friends. We've really been working on putting together a lot of teaching materials so that Friends will have the kind of information that they really need to be able to learn this whole history, which I will say a lot of people just don't know. But now we're starting to turn to, how can we support, the minute is very clear that we work in consultation, but really respect tribal autonomy all the way through. But anyway, I just wanted to think about ways you people could think about it. We could, I'm with the Missoula Friends meeting. They're very interested in this as well. What would be most interesting to you about this in terms of help that Friends could give the tribes? And how would we do it?
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for coming in and asking the question directly. Jennifer? Sorry, Jennifer.
I'm sorry, didn't get that. What was?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming in, and I think, I really appreciate you asking how you could be an ally to us, because I think that's what you're asking.
Mhm.
And I hear that you have, what I'm hearing you say is, that you also have great compassion for what we've been through.
Mhm.
And that's not something that we hear a lot. A lot of times, a lot of the things we deal with are really antagonistic, and we are put in a position where we have to stand our ground. And every time that we build a partnership of some kind, it always strengthens what we do. We have some really strong partnerships in terms of helping us acquire more land. And during the quarterly, a couple from Missoula came in and gave us $25,000 for land acquisition because to recognize that they live on our tribal land, our ancestral homeland. So I think, it's a longer discussion about ways that other people could help us. And certainly, if people wanted to gift deed property to us or make financial donations to land acquisition, there's all kinds of ways I think that we benefit from partnerships. Or, at times there might be, at times we've had partners help us testify in the legislature for various causes that we have. So, there's things that, that are monetary, and there's things that are not monetary too, like helping us advocate in the legislature about various causes that we have that are always really, really helpful. So I really appreciate you coming here. And just one thing I wanted to say about violence too is that we did have violence before colonization, but we had social systems in place to help people heal from trauma. And so one of the things that colonization did is it dismantled the systems that we had, our religious systems, our school systems, our housing systems. It dismantled all of those systems so people didn't have, it dismantled families. It took kids away from their families through boarding schools and, all of these things. So I think one of the most devastating things that colonization did is it dismantled our support systems, because we've always had trauma. We always had wars with other tribes, but we had ways to help keep us strong that we could go back to and replenish ourselves. And colonization really chipped away at those core things. And that's part of what we are rebuilding. And the fact that we hung on to enough of that is why we're still here. So we certainly did have violence, but we just had all these other systems to help us recover and constantly restore ourselves. But thank you so much for coming. And I like some of your ideas here, and and sometimes it's really powerful just to know that someone hears you and sees you and acknowledges what you've been through and acknowledges what we've been through. That's actually very healing. So thank you for that.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. And I just want to add to what Jennifer had to say. I think any collaboration with our food sovereignty programs would be a huge benefit to our community. I know I've heard that the Quaker communities are very good in farming, and establishing huge gardens, and things like that. I think sharing that kind of information amongst one another, I think would be a good start.
Okay,
But once again, I want to thank you for coming in today.
so just to reiterate what I've heard, so, I know that Missoula Friends Meeting has been thinking about doing some donations towards land, in relationship with the fact that we are on land. Obviously, we're all on land. It's stolen from tribes. So I've heard that would be of interest as a possibility. In terms of the legislation, so I've been thinking, my understanding is that the tribe has a series of or the tribes in Montana, I think, have a series of legislative things that they're planning. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Ellie.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Robin, I was actually gonna comment that, tomorrow would be an opportunity to testify if you're interested, on behalf of extending the Montana Missing Indigenous Persons Task Force. But you have to register, tonight by 5 in order to testify tomorrow morning at 8. But I'll email you that information.
Yes.
And there are 3 other bills, kind of related to that same topic, and I'll keep you posted on those.
I mean, last legislative session, I wrote a number of letters and sent and got them out to people. So, you know, I'd personally be happy to be a point person on, if there's legislation you're working, if somebody could let me know, and then I can send out to Quakers to ask them to. I have to be careful about it. It comes from me, not from any of the, obviously, any of the churches, but I'd be happy to perform that service and start putting together a good mailing list of, because I think that would be something that Quakers would be very interested in doing and knowing about. So that's one thing. And
Robin, we have 2 days a week, we have legislative updates. And so we have information that, as Ellie said, that would be great to be able to have your organization, the Quakers, any person, provide testimony, either written or Zoom in or attend in person. And we can get you all that information. That would be great, because that's an investment in your time and effort. I know when we started tribal colleges years and years ago, one of the greatest advocates for that was the Methodist Church.
Yeah.
And the way they organize on issues worldwide. It's incredible. So knowing the Quakers, I spent time in Costa Rica and really enjoyed the influence the Quakers had in that country. And I always appreciate the Quakers in decision-making process and seeking consensus and just really valuable insights that I really have appreciated. So there's many things that we can provide a list of many things for you. You heard this morning from Donna some of the issues that we have, and one in particular for.
I'll tell you, this was just breaking my heart listening to her.
Oh yeah. So when you think about like youth programs, how can we incentivize our youth that are doing well so they don't steer down a bad path? I'd love to be able to grab all our youth and put them into work programs from as soon as they're able to do that, and teach them about careers and teach them about all our resources and have that succession planning with our youth starting in grade school. I'm a big advocate for that kind of thing. So that kind of a thing is a monetary type of a donation, probably. Land back is monetary. So there's a whole list of different causes. You know, Len talked about food sovereignty. It's a huge list. And I think what really we could provide you with lots of information, and you could pick and choose those that meet best with your organization.
I mean, if you could do that, that would be just terrific.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I know Missoula Friends has been very interested in that. In addition to Montana Gathering of Friends have been, very interested in this. We've certainly donated to the Missing and Murdered Indigenous programs. But are interested in all of these. And I will say, I've actually did some programs on Indigenous, just the Indigenous history for Missoula Friends, and then in writing this paper, I spent about 2 years just reading. So I have a fairly good background, I think, for a non-Indigenous person as to the history. And so I'm really, this whole work is really near and dear to my heart. And so any way I can be of help, and if you can send me information, and then I can work with Quakers and maybe branch out to some of the other groups in Missoula as well.
Thank you.
And we'd
Super.
be very happy to do
We'll
that.
we'll have our executive staff person in charge of all the lobbying. Well, Ellie will
Yeah.
give, him your contact information,
Yeah, that
so we
would
can
be
give you all the local bills at Helena this session and in the federal level also. So we
Yeah.
can provide all that
Yeah.
information to you.
Yeah, I'm actually just did I don't know if you people know about, but a very good lobbying group is the, Friends Committee on National Legislation. So they just asked me to write a, op-ed about boarding schools in support of the Truth and Healing Act, that was introduced last session, and they're trying to get it reintroduced. So, so they're gonna publish that op-ed in, papers in Montana to try to get support for Montanans on that. And that's a pretty important piece of legislation as well. And, certainly gets at a lot of the issues that we were hearing about earlier. So anyway, so yes, please just keep me informed and send me what you feel are good things. And, I know Missoula Friends is interested in trying to do something about the land we're on and making retribution for that. And so I guess I'm not sure how we do it. If you guys can just let me know, if somebody wants to give to a certain, something that the tribe is doing, the whole list, how do they make that contribution, where they send it in and that kind of thing. Okay, great.
Thank you.
You very much.
Thank you, Robin, so much. Carol?
Robin, what was the name of that lobbying group? Friends Committee on National Legislation? Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, before we get into our next item, I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things with you all. Just want to let you know that we are going to do our annual donation to the Salish Language Conference coming up March 8th through the 10th. $2,500 donation, and then we're reserving $2,500 for our elders that want to attend. Let's see, on January 27th, there's the Health and Human Services set aside time for just tribal testimony. And I know that Patty's been working on that, and Lisa, so we'll be working on that also. We'll have to get people to go. We moved the animal control meeting to February 1st, hopefully, looks like. So that was canceled for this Wednesday morning, so February 1st will be that. And of course, we have a special guest on Wednesday at 11 this week. Shane and Misty over in Helena are working on the Speaker of the House to see if they want to do a State of Tribal Nations address. And they wanted to know if that was something that they wanted me to do. So that would be something that the council would have to direct me to do if that's something the council wants to do. If it does happen, it didn't happen last session. I did get an invite to the governor's State of the Union address, so I will attend that as an official capacity as your chair. And so I just wanted to see what council felt about that. It certainly could be any of us that do that, or it may be another tribal representative. I don't know how the rotation goes, so don't have any idea. Yeah, well, whatever. Well, yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted to even be on the center stage other than our reception that's occurring Thursday. The other thing is I needed to know a head count because I did cancel one reservation for a motel, and there might have been 2 rooms there, but for this Thursday, who's all going and who needs a motel room? Okay. I know that feeling. So we have those that need motels. Okay, yeah, you already got your room. Well, she was doing reservation. Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that good, Jen? Okay. That was my main item, so we'll move into executive session for our next item, so we'll have to clear the room. I've invited Rick. Len? Motion by Len to approve the resolution for the opioid settlement agreements with, there was 4 of them? Okay. With the 4 listed entities. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? All right. Thank you, Brian. Everybody drive safe.